Alright, it's been like 8 months since my last video on Fallout 76. The game has had numerous updates and entirely new expansions since then, so I figured it's about time we take another little look in to see how it's doing. Now I do want to be clear, this isn't a full review of the game, it's just an update on how it's been going since my last video was made. In the last video, I kind of talked about how the new updates have changed it and made it a game I'm really not playing as much as I used to, so this isn't a whole new review of it, it's just me looking at it and going, am I enjoying it now with these updates? Well... Yes, I would say I'm demonstrably liking it more with these updates. It's amazing. This is hands down the best the game has ever been. And let's break down some of these major changes because they're insane and have changed the game up in some pretty significant ways. One of the first updates we got recently was Locked and Loaded, at least since I made the last video. It added more daily ops and added the ability to have special and camp loadouts. This update added an entirely new way to play daily ops, an entirely new version of it, new areas, more loot to get, and stuff like that. It brought back old weapons that you used to only be able to get from survival mode and made the daily ops just more worth doing with all the new content you could get. They also added more camp loadouts, so you could easily have multiple houses or even just have multiple builds on one character to swap between easily, so you didn't have to spend a bunch of levels moving all these perk points around. Instead, now you can just go to a thing, automatically swap over to your crafting, or your heavy weapons, or your unarmed build, or your pistol build, or whatever else. But at the time, it was only one other build, so most people just did a crafting build so they could easily swap back and forth, and that was it. To be honest, it was a pretty decent update, but it was kind of lacking in some of the content it added, and we were really hoping for more out of it. And recently, we got that more. Steel Rain is the most recent update to Fallout 76, the most recent major one at the least. It added in a ton of stuff, a whole new campaign, and brought us to the end of the Brotherhood Civil War. It's pretty good overall and has a pretty decent story, which I didn't actually expect because I haven't trusted Bethesda's writers in a while, even though 76 has had some pretty good writing overall. Some of the new features added with Steel Rain were things like legendary crafting, legendary power armor, legendary effects expansion, major updates to legendary effects, and a whole new vendor to the game. All of these have totally revitalized the ways that I play the game and added more content than I ever expected them to. They've just been quality of life updates and changes that have completely overhauled stuff, as well as allowing you to have even more camp slots and loadout slots. All of these updates have worked together in an insane way to bring back everything I loved about the game and expand it more. Legendary crafting means that you're no longer praying that you get one of the thousands of weapon drops you want and then praying it's a good version of that weapon to begin with. Now, if you get one legendary version of that gun, which you can probably find fairly easily or cheaply, you can then re-roll it into the gun you want. Granted, it's still randomized and you still have to work for it though. Legendary crafting isn't as simple as just going, I want this gun and I want it to have this, because then it would just ruin all of the grind and all of the reason to keep coming back and playing the game. Instead, you have to get legendary script, which they've upped the limit on everything. Your stash weight, the amount of money you can make from vendors, the amount of script you can carry, the amount of bullion you can carry, it's all been raised tremendously. So now you go and you break down all the legendaries you get in a day, you get some legendary script, you use that to buy some modules, so you're still grinding for legendaries, and you can still get trash ones you want to throw away just like you used to be able to. Then, you do events. You're already likely doing events to try and get more legendaries, or just because they're fun to do and give good rewards. Now you go do those events and you get legendary cores for doing them. You use the script to buy some modules and combine those with the cores to allow you to craft legendaries. You can either re-roll the effects on a gun or bring it from a 3-star to a 1-star or a 1-star to a 3-star, whatever you want, but it'll randomize those effects every time, so you can't just make it perfectly what you want. You still have a bit of that RNG grind to work through. They've also now added in legendary power armor, something that's always kind of been a thing, but not really, where you could get armor that had like special stats and abilities in Fallout 4, and it would call it legendary, but it wasn't really legendary. Well, now there just is legendary power armor, making it much more viable. Used to be when I'd hop into power armor, it would take off all the effects of my other armor I was wearing and make me over encumbered in the power armor compared to not in it. It was absurd, kind of annoying. Now that's just not a thing. You can just have legendary power armor. It takes a bit to grind into it, and getting a good build of it's going to take a while, but hey, grind is a lot of what people are here for to begin with. They've also expanded and rebalanced a ton of legendary effects. Things that used to only do, like, say, 10% extra damage if you had mutations, now do 5% extra damage per mutation. Or having a specific gun for running a silo where you're only fighting robots is more viable because now those guns do 50% more damage to robots. Other things like 10% aim down sight bonus for firing is now 25%. A lot of stuff has just been pulled up to make the character feel more powerful and give you more options. You don't have to be running this perfectly meta bloodied build. You can run a junkies or even just a build where you have a ton of money or are constantly eating and drinking water, which was previously something they basically removed all need to do. Now you can make builds around that. If I'm fully fed and my thirst meter's topped up, I'm good to go and use a weapon that'll do more damage and have armor that'll have more defense. It's amazing. There's so many more options for builds now that can actually compete close to what Bloodied did, but still have Bloodied, the glass cannon build, be viable in its own right, which is exactly how it should be. It's a glass cannon build. It should have the most damage, but everything else shouldn't just be thrown away because that one's so much better. One thing I complained about heavily in my previous video was the fact that there's a chance you'll just never get what you want from the daily ops. You know, I've been trying to grind out that new pistol through daily ops and I still haven't gotten it, despite the fact that that pistol's been in since the first half of Steel Dawn. Like, it's just, there's a chance you won't get it, and that's something I've always hated about RNG. Well, luckily, Bethesda agreed. So now there's Minerva, a new vendor who comes in during certain weekdays, a lot like Xur did in Destiny 2. And now you can just go to Minerva and purchase a lot of these daily ops exclusives. You just buy plans from her with gold bullion, which at this point gold bullion was mostly losing its stuff. We had 3 other vendors that could give us gold bullion, but there wasn't much reason to buy stuff if you'd already gotten what you wanted. Well, now we have Minerva there, and she has rotating inventory every other week, and even a sale every month during certain weekends. It's a really good reason to keep coming back, and a lot of more content that makes it where you don't have to grind and it's not super annoying. It's just a nice thing to have, really. And all of those have just worked together in such an amazing way. People are selling items more than ever. They're buying items more than ever. It's easier to get builds going more than ever. It's easier to have good weapons more than ever. Someone was selling 53 fixers on a server I was in. They just had a bunch of 3-star of them and were selling them on the cheap. The whole economy has been revitalized and people are buying again. It's still bad that in the past, everything I complained about is still kind of there. There's still a chance you won't get what you want from daily ops. You still can't actually trade the stuff you get from the daily ops and from Wastelanders and stuff like that. Anything you buy with gold bullion's just for you, and there's certain weapons you can't even drop because of that, but they're changing it and they're updating it and they're showing a willingness. Recently, floater grenades, which used to be something you would get a ton of and couldn't sell or throw away, can now just be dropped and traded like any other item. They're showing a willingness to actually go back into that, and I think that's going to be fantastic. Now is a great time to get on and get multiple builds, and speaking of builds, the fact that you can now have multiple means that you don't have to have multiple characters, you don't have to grind out all of the Wastelanders quests a second time, or go in and fully max out both the Raiders and the Settlers. You can max them out on one character, and then on mine, I can just switch over to a heavy arms build, or I'm working on a pistol build, so I have more things to do with my level ups and more perk cards I can get and stuff like that, where now I'm going to have multiple builds going, and when I'm shopping around, buying and selling stuff, I have even more reason to be buying items or looking at everything. I don't just dismiss an entire classification of weapons because I can't use it. That's just not a thing. I can just swap to a pistol build or switch to a heavy weapons build. I'm buying so much more than ever before, and so is everyone else. The economy has been brought back to an amazing degree, and all the issues I had with people not buying stuff before because everyone was more focused on their own script, it's gone. It's just fixed. It's good. The economy is back and better than ever. It's fantastic to see. There's still going to be a lot of things people don't like about the game, and I can understand that. A lot of the complaints people had are mostly valid. It's nowhere near as buggy as it used to be, though. All of the stuff that I complained about in the past and I said I didn't like, that's just gone. It's fixed. That's sorted. It's not an issue anymore. It's amazing the state the game's in, and if you've ever thought about playing it, now's the absolute best time to get in there and give it a shot, especially looking forward. There's still more to come, and more that's going to be showing up soon. In the fall, we're getting an overhaul to Private World, as well as another Daily Ops expansion, giving us more reasons to grind and more stuff to do, as well as potentially the ability to do a little bit more modding, as they've talked about before in the Private Worlds. And I know a lot of people really want that. Then in the winter, we're getting another expansion and seeing aliens come, new seasonal events, new public challenges, and 4-star legendary gear. And we have no idea what else will come alongside both of these updates. Like, as all this other stuff has been coming out, there's been multiple other patches. We now have the ability to do stuff like, oh, here's a double XP weekend. Right now, there's specialized mole miners that can spawn anywhere other enemies spawn, so go hunt them down for special gear. There's this other event coming up, Meat Week. There's all kinds of stuff. And they've already announced that, like, Graham got new stuff for Meat Week. So this seasonal event they roll out every once in a while, that's coming back. It's amazing. They keep giving you reasons to come back, and none of this is stuff that's FOMO or is stuff you have to be on to do. I'm personally not a huge fan of FOMO, but this game manages to avoid it. Everything good is still there all of the time. You can still always do the trading, you can still always get these specialty items just through the in-game economy. There's never a point where everything that's gone is truly gone. There's always a way to get something. And all of this is without even mentioning the fact that we're going back to the pit sometime next year. They're doing something called expeditions starting in 2022, where we'll be going to other areas. The first thing on the list is going to the pit, an area that you would do in Fallout 3, except for we're going to be much earlier into it, as we're about 175 years early compared to Fallout 3. Who knows what it's going to look like? It's going to be still an irradiated shithole, but I'm excited to see it. Right now is the best time to get on, get your gear, get leveled up, get builds going, and get ready for these expeditions, because I am sure that the pit is only the beginning. The game's available on Game Pass on Xbox and on PC. It's regularly on sale for very cheap. It has free weekends all the time, and I'm sure you could probably pick up a used copy for the console somewhere. I'm just saying that, hey, it's a pretty good game. It's in the best place it's ever been. I definitely think you should give it a shot. If you like this video or you want to talk about Fallout 76 in the comments, I'd be more than happy to. And thanks for watching. Alright, in this portion of the video is a little update for people who have been watching me for a bit. I know I haven't made much in a while. I've been demonstrably busy. I've been working almost every day, and the days I don't work are usually ones I end up spending with my wife. I'm off today, and the only other day I'm off this week that I could really work on this video is my wife's birthday. I could potentially work on it a little bit before I go into work, but I've just been chilling, having a good time, working on some other stuff. I have a lot planned and a lot of other videos I want to make. I'm sorry about the 2-month gap. To be honest, I've spent a lot of time playing Call of Duty and do have a Call of Duty video planned, but I'm sorry that I haven't been streaming or making as many videos as I feel like I should have. I have a lot of ideas, they just take a lot of time, and I've kind of just recently wanted to chill out and play some other video games. So, sorry. Do expect more in the future, because I do have more planned, and again, thanks for watching.